Hello and welcome to Friday's Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello there. On the programme this evening,
a couple with a newborn baby disappear after breaking down on a motorway near Bolton. Police say they need urgent medical attention.
warnings over the dangers of flu as hospital beds continue to fill up. One mother is warning people to make sure their children are vaccinated.
I was distraught. I really thought I was going to lose my child. I was thinking the extreme possibility that she could potentially die from this.
The radical new plans to make Liverpool a safer place for women and girls.
It was the record-breaking boat that captivated a nation. Now, more than 50 years after her final run, there's controversy over Bluebird's final resting place.
The Friday feel-good story about the man from Salford who never gave up and is producing his first ever musical in Lytham at 80 years young.
And I'm live at Old Trafford ahead of Manchester United against Everton in the FA Cup. It's a big night for the Blues boss who's fighting to keep his job. We'll hear from him, plus be joined by a United legend later in the programme.
Well, first tonight, a search is underway for a couple who've gone missing with their newborn baby after breaking down on a motorway near Bolton.
Constance Martin and Mark Gordon were last seen in the Highfield and Little Hulton areas last night.
Police say they believe the baby was born recently without medical attention and are now urging the couple to go to hospital.
Our reporter Victoria Grimes is live for us tonight on the Anchor Lane Bridge where the couple were last seen. Vicky, what more can you tell us?
Well, that's right, Anne. The couple and their baby were last seen here on the Anchor Lane Bridge. It links Little Hulton and Highfield. Now, police tell us they believe that their car broke down near Junction 4 of the M61 last night. They know that they managed to get safely off the motorway and then they were later seen walking across this bridge. After that, they vanished and haven't been heard from since. Now, police are particularly concerned about the baby. They believe that Constance Martin may have given birth very recently indeed and has had no medical attention. Neither has that little baby. So they're asking anybody that may have seen them last night to get in touch. This is a really busy area. There's lots of cars going backwards and forwards, lots of people walking along it. Somebody must have seen something. Now, we know that Constance has a southern accent. It's believed they're both from somewhere in the south of the country. She was wearing a burgundy jacket. The baby was with them. It was all wrapped up. And Mark had on dark clothing. So police, as I say, are very, very concerned indeed that they've had no medical attention. So they're asking Constance, if she's watching this, to please get in touch with them or to go to hospital.
And Vicky, there's a big police presence there this evening.
Yes, there has been, Gamal, that's right. There's been 2 tactical aid units, a specialist search and rescue vehicle and a number of both plainclothes and uniformed officers as well as community support officers as well. Now, it appears they were looking in an area of parkland just next to the bridge. They had torches. Some of those vehicles have since moved on, but there are still police officers here this evening. All they want to do is to find this couple and this little baby and to make sure that they're safe.
OK, Vicky, thank you.
A mother whose daughter was hospitalised with flu says she genuinely thought she was going to die.
Yeah, Mariam Shakrana's daughter Safi, who's 4 years old, spent more than a week at the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital and was treated on a high dependency unit. Doctors are now warning parents to get their children vaccinated.
New figures show flu cases have risen by 47% over the last week. More than 5,000 flu patients are now being treated in hospitals. At this stage last winter, just 38 patients had been admitted.
I was distraught. I really thought I was going to lose my child. I was thinking the extreme possibility that she could potentially die from this. She's struggling to breathe. I thought if she's not getting enough oxygen in, the brain, I thought, is this going to leave some kind of damage? When she comes round, when she wakes up, is she going to be the same girl that she was before she got ill? So there's all these kind of worst case scenarios going in my head. Thankfully, I've been very lucky and very fortunate that that wasn't the case.
Well, earlier we were joined by GP Dr Helen Wall, who leads on screenings and immunisations in Greater Manchester. She told us the spike in flu cases is impacting all parts of the NHS.
That's pressure in terms of admissions, critical care beds, the use of them for flu is up, and also our touch points, so our urgent care system, people going into A&E with flu, people coming into primary care with flu symptoms or needing home visits for flu symptoms. It is it's a massive undertaking.
We've got some of the latest figures here. Hospital bed occupancy is 98% in Greater Manchester. 384 people are in hospital with flu. Do you think we are now in a crisis?
I think winter's difficult every year, isn't it? But this year is certainly proving to be a challenge. And I know people say, well, you say that every year is the worst winter. This is certainly as bad as I've seen it during my time as a doctor, which is, going on for 20 years now. It is significantly pressured. I think the difficulty is that it's not just one part of the system that is under pressure. It's every part of the system. It's primary care, it's hospitals, it's urgent care.
Is there anything that we can do to avoid getting the flu and other viruses? We heard from Mariam about how serious it can be.
Yeah. So the number one thing we can do, if you are eligible, please get vaccinated. We have a significant number of our population that are eligible for flu vaccination. That's young children and adults who have not come forward for that vaccination. Now, I know everybody's sick of hearing about vaccines because of COVID, but it's really important that we get people vaccinated. Our numbers of people in the area where I work, which is in the northwest, Greater Manchester, who have been vaccinated for flu in every single age cohort, whether that's elderly or young, is down on this time this week last year, significantly down in some parts, and particularly in our 2 to 3 year olds. We've only got about 37% of our 2 to 3 year olds vaccinated, and our pregnant women about 35% vaccinated, and that varies from different parts of town. But it could be so much higher, and we could really reduce the impact that flu is having on each other, but also on our system.
On the general state of the NHS, only yesterday we were reporting on 92-year-old Vera Murphy, who was forced to wait 33 hours in a hospital corridor before she was seen by a professional. As a medical practitioner, what is your reaction when you hear stories such as that?
Well, it's really upsetting. None of us, you will not find a medical professional who wants to hear things like that. That's not what we came into this this job for. It's not what we want to care for people, and we want to care for people in a timely fashion. So it is very upsetting. It's very alarming. Everybody is working extremely hard. There's lots of plans in place to try and mitigate the pressures. Everybody's doing what they can, but it is difficult. And I know some of that is being levelled at GPs. I'm a GP. In terms of people are going into A&E because they can't get a GP appointment. I absolutely fully accept that getting a general practice appointment is difficult, and it's a challenge for much of our population right now, because we too are extremely busy. But what I would say to that is, people are not waiting on trolleys in hospital for a bed because they haven't got an appointment with their GP, because they're far too poorly to come to the GP if they're needing to be admitted. And the problem is that people are waiting on trolleys to get into the hospital because we're struggling to get people out of the hospital at the other side because of the pressures in social care. So the whole system is pressured.
Dr Helen Wall, thank you very much for coming in and chatting to us on what is a very busy time for yourself and your colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in other news today, and a woman has been questioned by police after a car crashed into a building in Tameside, causing it to partially collapse. A cordon's in place on Canterbury Road in Ashton-under-Lyne as efforts to clear rubble continue. Emergency services say she was able to free herself from the car before being treated by paramedics. The driver, who was arrested on suspicion of drink driving, has been released under investigation.
The mother of Sam Rimmer, who was shot dead in Liverpool, says she won't rest until his killer is found. Sam, who was due to become a father this month, was one of 3 people killed within a week in Merseyside last August. 4 people were arrested and have since been bailed. His family say today would have been his 23rd birthday.
Well, next tonight, the women and girls caught up in violence and the radical new plans for a crackdown in Liverpool. What can be done to end it once and for all?
Well, Liverpool City Council is introducing a 3-year strategy it hopes will encourage more people to come forward. It comes as figures show a third of women in the city have or will experience some form of violence in their lifetime.
Well, today there was a clear message from the Mayor. Numbers will rise unless action is taken. Mel Barham has this report.
It was just a small gathering with friends and he came along and we eventually just ended up alone and the situation escalated to the point that I wasn't really comfortable with what was going on and he just became quite forceful.
Hannah says she was sexually assaulted in her first year of university. She's waived her right to anonymity because she wanted to tell her story.
One thing that you're told, again, to not get assaulted, is to watch what you wear. And I was wearing a brown woolly jumper and jeans, the most boring, mundane outfit ever, and it still happened to me.
Hannah's story is far from rare. It's thought almost 1 in 3 women and girls will suffer some form of violence in their lifetime. And that's why the Mayor of Liverpool has now unveiled a plan, a strategy on how the city will tackle the problem.
Violence against women is an issue not just locally, nationally and across the whole globe. It's not, special to Liverpool. But in terms of what difference this will make, will hopefully just raise an awareness that this is in place. For a start, will help. But if our agencies are more coordinated with better resources, then we can be more efficient in raising awareness, tackling the problem, working with perpetrators, supporting victims, doing all the things that's necessary to eradicate violence against women and girls.
This was an election pledge from the Mayor, and in what's been described as a radical plan, she wants not only more sustainable funding from government, but also hoping to change the narrative around misogyny and how girls and women are treated.
It's scary and it's annoying. It'll literally be like daylight in the summer. They'll just scream stuff at you, and you just put your head down and you just walk because you know that they are grown men. And you're a child.
Even getting the bus to and from school, girls always have to be careful because they know that when they're in a group, boys tend to want to impress their friends by calling girls names.
Pupils here at St Julie's Catholic High School in Liverpool were amongst those consulted about the plans. Hearing their everyday experiences was crucial in drawing up a picture of how attitudes can lead to violence.
In school, we're given so much information on the situation and how we should go about our day and how to prevent it and all this, whereas we think it should start a different audience, specifically boys at a young age.
Maybe put so much pressure on yourself to react to certain.
Hannah got help from the Rape and Sexual Abuse Centre here in Merseyside. They too have had a hand in drawing up this strategy and are hoping it will encourage more people like Hannah to come forward to report crimes and access support.
If this is a topic that everybody's talking about and it's a topic that is clearly being tackled by the council, by the PCC and by the police, then women and girls will start to feel safer on the streets. And when we start to see prosecution rates increase as well, that will have an impact.
This won't be a quick fix, but this city is hoping it will pave the way for a safer future for women and girls. Mel Barham, ITV News, Liverpool.
Yeah, let's hope so. Do come forward if you've experienced any of the things that we've talked about in Mel's piece. Lots to come on the programme tonight. Coming up.
We are live from Old Trafford as United welcome Everton in the FA Cup.
And I'm not sure what this little beauty's got its eye on, but we need to be on the lookout for standing water and some strong and gusty winds over the next 24 hours or so. A changeable weekend. Full forecast a little later on.
Next tonight, to the row over the world-famous Bluebird boat between the family of Donald Campbell and the man who restored it.
Yeah, this week a remembrance event was held to mark 56 years since the death of the water speed record breaker. He was killed on Coniston Water, trying to break his own world record.
But the event took place against the background of a bitter dispute about the future of his boat Bluebird and why it hasn't been returned to Coniston to go on display to the public. Tim Backshaw reports.
More than half a century after his death, people still gather each year to pay tribute to Donald Campbell. Donald Campbell died in 1967, his hydroplane Bluebird flipping at around 300 miles per hour. In 2001, the wreckage was brought to the surface by engineer Bill Smith, who spent many of the years since restoring her. But even though the vessel was gifted by Donald Campbell's family to the Ruskin Museum in Coniston, he so far refused to allow her to come here. This is the extension to the Ruskin Museum, built specially to house Bluebird. You can see her outline on the floor here. More than £750,000 of public money was raised to build this extension, and it was opened in 2010. But 13 years on, it's still not clear when Bluebird will arrive here. The museum says it's now started legal proceedings to recover Bluebird.
A letter of claim and various other communications, but at the moment there's no yielding from the other side, so it may be that we have to go down the full-blown legal route.
Bill Smith put Bluebird back on the water in Scotland in 2018 and says he wants to ensure she can still be taken out of the museum for similar trips in future. He also claims ownership of the parts he's added. He attended today's service for the first time, despite some animosity over the ongoing dispute. Why have you not agreed so far to bring Bluebird to Coniston?
Well, we did. We agreed many years ago that we would bring Bluebird to Coniston, but Bluebird Project would also maintain and operate the boat. And that part seems to have fallen on stony ground. So as soon as that's sorted out, we'll bring it straight back.
Do you accept, though, that it is owned by the Ruskin Museum and they should have the say on what happens to it?
No, because there's 20 years of our work in it. They may own some of it, we own some of it, third parties own some of it. It doesn't all belong to one set of people or one person, so that's not how it works.
Donald Campbell's family say they're disappointed it's taking so long to get Bluebird to Coniston.
We feel aggrieved that all we're trying to do is defend what is right. The truth of the matter is that we donated the wreck, it's been restored, and the person that restored it cannot make a claim of ownership.
Mr. Smith plans to take Bluebird to an airfield near York for a short display later this year. For now, though, the space for Bluebird at the Ruskin Museum remains unfilled, with the likelihood increasing that the issue may have to be resolved in the courts. Tim Backshall, ITV News, Coniston.
Yeah, that Bluebird story is just fascinating, isn't it? The
Always.
Yeah, the twists and turns very much continue. Here's what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Charlene.
Prince Harry has shared more details of the rift between him and his family. Allegations about his brother's violent temper, the number of Taliban fighters he claims to have killed, and confessions of teenage drug taking are all on the agenda. The NHS in continued crisis as data from England shows A&E waiting times are up and flu cases are surging. For the first time ever, lesbian, gay, bi and trans people have been included in the census data. And Chelsea and Italy icon Gianluca Vialli has died aged 58. So join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Well, next tonight, to the man who's proving that you're never too old to try something new.
That is right, because the youthful 80-year-old Barry Speed from Salford has penned his very own musical, which is due to open at Lytham's Lowther Pavilion in March.
It is the first time the theatre has ever commissioned its own musical since it opened more than 100 years ago.
Our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore caught up with Barry during auditions.
Set in the beautiful Lowther Gardens in Lytham, the Lowther Pavilion has proudly served its community with a whole host of touring shows since it first opened its doors over a century ago, but it's never produced its very own production, until now.
Barry, goodness me, you look incredible. You're 80 years old and you've written your first ever musical.
Yeah, well, I was back in the 60s. I was in a band, which every man and his dog was in a band, and I always wrote music. Turn of the century, I went to live in Spain with my wife, and I decided I'd write a musical, which incorporated songs I'd written over the years. I called it Times Like These. And I was introduced to Tim Lins, the director of this theatre, and he said, I think we'll put this on as a show.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And it's the Lowther Pavilion's first ever in-house production.
Yeah.
How proud are you?
Fantastic. I cannot believe it. I feel so privileged. What they do here is wonderful.
Yeah.
And to be part of that is as big a buzz as having my musical played. It's a love story. It's incorporating sex and drugs and rock and roll, which is 60s, 70s. It's a simple story about pathos and ambition and love.
I think it's completely exciting.
I mean, we've come out of the pandemic and here we are, we're launching into a new phase for the theatre as a seed venue and something where we can start shows off that may go on elsewhere. But, you know, what a tremendous thing it is to actually pick up somebody and work with somebody who it's their first attempt at putting together a musical at his age. I think it proves how intergenerational the theatre actually is. The fact that Barry was coming as a novice scriptwriter but also having written the songs is really important to the way we go forward. One of those things to encourage in the local community.
Long time the man some foe he sought.
Theatre was built in 1921, just over 100 years of history. Now is open 7 days a week, doing shows right throughout the year.
You're in the middle of auditions now, aren't you?
Yes, I'll have some input, but I'll rely on him. He's been in the business that many years.
Your very first musical will be on stage from the 15th to the 18th of March.
Yeah, I can't believe it. You're never too old to achieve something.
Out grey.
Well done. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, you're never too old to achieve something. Love
The
it.
aptly named Barry Speed, not slowing down even though he's 80. It's time for sport now, and it's FA Cup weekend. Here's Mike.
Yeah, that's right, Anne. A big weekend of Cup action with 12 of our football clubs back on the road to Wembley. We will hear from some of them over the next few minutes. And we start at Old Trafford, where Manchester United take on Everton at 8 o'clock tonight. United enjoying a great run under Erik ten Hag. In contrast, Everton find themselves in something of a crisis. David Chisnall is at Old Trafford, and David, very different moods in the two camps.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. While Manchester United are thinking about silverware this season, Everton are thinking about survival. Frank Lampard's side have been on a really poor run of form that has seen them drop into the bottom three in the Premier League. While it's a break from league football tonight, it's not a break from the pressure, and Lampard knows that if his side lose this evening, then he could lose his job. You know, fans booed his side as they went off in midweek, and he admits that both he and his players have to dig deep.
We want to perform well. And show performances with a real work ethic and passion. I've always said that always ignites the fans in the right way. That's our responsibility. Maybe sometimes you just have to show big balls as well to play in difficult moments because there's a passionate fan base, and I've got no problem with that. And we just have to focus on what we do. And at certain times this season, I think we have done it. And sometimes you need the fans when you're a bit below par. Yeah, for sure you do. And, you know, that's something that we really want. But at this moment, it's on us to try and bring them with us. And as I say, stand up and play for Everton.
Well, while Lampard is under pressure, Erik ten Hag is overseeing a resurgence here at Manchester United. Fourth in the Premier League. They're also trying to join the Premier League title race with Manchester City and Arsenal. Well, let's have a chat now with someone who knows all about winning titles here with Manchester United. Club legend Brian Robson. Brian, 2017 was the last time United won a bit of silverware. That was the Europa League under Jose Mourinho. How significant would it be if Erik ten Hag was to win a trophy in his first season with the club?
Look, I always feel that for a group of players and a new manager, the first trophy is really important to give that group of players a real confidence. But look, we said at the start of the season, if we can get into the top 4 Champions League position and hopefully win a cup, that would be a great season for his first season. But I think he's doing a great job, and you can see the improvement in it. But we've got a lot of important games coming up over the next month.
Now, you talk about winning cups, winning silverware. You won the FA Cup 3 times as a player with Manchester United. In 1985, you beat Everton with the guys who you play tonight, and that, of course, was Norman Whiteside scoring the winner in extra time there. You lifted the trophy then. How significant is the FA Cup still to sides like United, Everton?
Look at the tradition of the FA Cup is always in players' mind. So, you know, if you don't win the title, if you win the FA Cup, you always think that that's a good season, not a great season because you always want to win the title. But yeah, if you can win the FA Cup, because of the tradition of it, it's always great for the squad of players. You know, and like I say, that's really good for confidence as well. So Frank will want to be doing well, you know, in the FA Cup and have a good run in it. But I'm sure he'll be concentrating on his league position, you know, make sure that Everton don't get relegated this season.
Well, you mentioned Frank Lampard. Obviously, they come here with so much pressure on them. They had a good result away at Manchester City over Christmas. How worried about them are you tonight?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing about Everton. You know, he gets them well organised, and defensively, even though they've got to be 4 in the week, but you know, defensively they're usually really good because they're organised, but they struggle to score goals. So I think it'll be a difficult game for them because United aren't giving goals away. We're in good form, in good confident mood. You know, so hopefully we can get a good win tonight.
OK, Brian, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Well, Manchester United against Everton is live on ITV1 tonight. Coverage starts in just over an hour's time. You know, the FA Cup third round weekends are always memorable. Frank Lampard, though, will hope that this one isn't remembered from losing his job.
Absolutely. David at Old Trafford, thank you very much indeed. Well, Liverpool, of course, are the reigning FA Cup holders and they continue their defence tomorrow. They're at home to Wolves in a game you can see live on ITV4. Preston, Burnley, Fleetwood, Blackpool and Wigan all in action tomorrow, as well as Accrington Stanley. The League One side have a tricky test away to non-league Boreham Wood.
I was standing next to their manager when the draw was made. Both of us wanted a plum tie because you want a plum tie to make money for the club. Neither of us are going to win the FA Cup, but you can make a big difference to your season. You can make a big difference to your club if you can pull out the golden ticket. And it gives either of us an opportunity now to go on and try and pluck that out.
Yeah, best of luck to Accrington tomorrow afternoon. Our 3 remaining sides play their cup ties on Sunday. Stockport County host Walsall, Blackburn Rovers head to Norwich, while Manchester City once again face Chelsea.
Now it's time for the weather with Kerry.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, very good evening to you. Turning increasingly unsettled through tonight and into tomorrow morning. Shame, really. There were some lovely sunny spells earlier today. A big thank you to Anne McColgan for this beautiful shot. But yes, we are looking at unsettled conditions for much of the weekend. Rain or showers never too far away. Some strong, gusty and blustery winds, and turning a little bit fresher too by the end of the weekend for a short time. So it's this system pushing through, lingering first thing tomorrow, and then as the low pressure nudges its way northwards, it spirals in those strong winds and showery spells throughout the weekend and into the start of next week. But that slightly fresher airflow compared to the southerly that we've had this week, giving us those mild temperatures for the time of year. So it's showery over the next few hours. Some of those showers could be heavy. As we head through into the second part of the night, though, it becomes increasingly more unsettled from the west with some heavier pulses, strong gusty winds by the time we reach the early hours. And if anything, those temperatures rising to double figures as we head towards dawn. 8:27 and 4:08 are your sun times for Saturday. Not a great start tomorrow. Cloudy skies, showery outbreaks of heavy rain, accompanied by those strong gusty winds. The winds will ease for a time, but then sunshine and again the potential for some heavy showers and blustery conditions into the afternoon. If anything, those temperatures will dip into the second half of the day. It will feel that little bit fresher as we head into the second half of the weekend. But as you can see, plenty of showers feeding in along that strong southwesterly flow mixed in with sunny spells, and temperatures back down to around the average for the time of year. Maybe even a chilly night on Monday night, but by Tuesday the showers and the strong winds return. Take care.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
So off the back of Cal's report on Barry Speed, the man who has done his own musical at 80 years old, I've been thinking what I would like to do. I think I'd definitely like to fly a plane single-handedly by the time I'm 80. What about you?
I'd like to get both my kids to wash their teeth when I tell them to. By the time I'm 80.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen. We'll see you later.
Right.
Bye-bye.